Welcome to another edition of Walton Entertainment. Today we'll have more news, information, and entertainment from your local hometown.
So we are wrapping up the 2018 First Friday concert series. This is our 13th year doing concerts. We're back on the historic courthouse lawn. It's such an exciting evening. It's a swinging medallion, so it's one of our larger crowds. And we're just super excited. It's been a great series, and it's a great way to wrap up the summer as we move into our fall events downtown Monroe. Such an exciting time for downtown Monroe. As of right now, we have committed 4 restaurants that will be opening. We hope 2 of them by fall or the first of the year, and then 2 more in the following year in 2019. Your Pie will be coming. We have another restaurant called South on Broad that will also be opening up, and then we have LR Burger and Silver Queen that will hopefully be open by next year. So it's a great time for downtown Monroe. We have some other retail businesses coming in, so things are booming and amazing here in downtown. It's great.
Hey, I'm Isaac over at Reboot, giving you the Reboot Tech Tip this week. Wanted to talk a little bit about passwords. I know I've talked about this before, but things are ever changing. Passwords is a huge topic these days with security for internet-based devices. So we'll just get into it. I don't care what kind of device that you're using. It could be a phone, tablet, Chromebook, computer. Whatever it is, if you're getting on the internet with it, it needs to have a password on it. These days, it's so easy for a virus to get on your computer or your phone or whatever it is, especially if you don't have a password. Businesses definitely need to have passwords on all computers. Viruses, hackers, stuff like that, they tend to gravitate a little bit more towards businesses just because they can make more money that way. So any device you have, I don't care what it is, even if like on your phone you do the dot thing or whatever and it's just like a L or something like that, you got to have something. You need to have something, some kind of security. And so passwords for, like, let's say banking sites or anything to deal with money. Typically these days they've gotten a little bit complicated. You got to do letters, uppercase letters, numbers, symbols, all that stuff. So there's a couple ways you can go about that. You don't ever want to do like something that's familiar to you, like your mom's name or your dog's name or something like that. Try to stay away from stuff like that. Just because, again, if somebody stole your identity or something like that type of thing is real easy to overcome because it's something that's familiar to your life. So some people use a password generator. So there's websites that you can go to that actually generate passwords for you. Typically what I do is I'll create a password and then I have a document I keep all my passwords on. It's on my flash drive in my pocket at all times, so as long as it's with me, then I'm good. But I have all kind of passwords in that thing, and I can do random stuff sometimes. I'll just make up something, or if I'm sitting at a desk and I look across the room and I see the name of something, I'll put that in the password, stuff like that. So you want to keep it somewhat random is what I'm trying to say. It's been real common lately that people do like a name, some numbers, and then a symbol. Change that up some. Start with the symbol or start with the numbers, or what I mean. Don't, because it's gotten so common that people do that name, numbers, and a symbol. Change it up some. Really, the other thing too is, especially with the money sites, is it's important to change them every now and then. So like with Synovus down the street here, they make you change your banking, or at least they do with me anyway, my banking password every 6 months. I've got to change it, which is good. It just keeps it's more security. If I'm changing it all the time, it's harder for hackers to get the password and all that stuff. So keep that in mind. So the other thing too, that people sometimes forget about is game consoles and stuff like that. You can get on the internet with these game consoles and and all that, so you can get in trouble that way. So and those things a lot of times don't have passwords or whatever, so be careful where you go on the internet with your game console and stuff like that. So a couple other things about passwords. Don't just do like password, or don't do 1 2 3 4 5, or especially for secure stuff. So there was a there was a hacker that actually put out what's called it's basically a virus, and it went out and looked for all the DVRs, the camera systems that had the default username and password. And when it did, he just took that thing over, and he used this huge conglomerate of these DVRs as a resource to do other crazy stuff. So he was basically stealing resources. So again, you got to stay away from the default stuff. So with that being said, everybody typically at their house will have like a router, or if you have Comcast or Windstream, then your router and your modem are all one box. It's like the Comcast box or the Windstream box. It's all the same thing. Do away with the default password on that thing. So there's always like a username and a password to log into that device. It's usually on the side. Go ahead and change that thing. Keep track of it. I know Comcast now, every time you log into their device, they tell you, well, you can only log in with this default username and password, 8 times or 9 times or whatever it is. So go ahead and change that thing, especially if you have a business, because again, that's an easy way for a hacker to come in. If you've got the default username and password, then they know what it is. So change that thing. Keep track of it. And I'm going to be quiet after this. But so one more thing about passwords. Just keep track of them. If you, have a tech guy come out, or Comcast or something like that, it takes, if you don't have your passwords, everything takes twice as long. And so typically, you get charged more money or whatever. So put them in a safety deposit box, or like I said, I do them on my flash drive. You can do a little encryption program for those things if you want, or keep them locked up in a drawer or whatever it is. We have some businesses that they write all their stuff down and then they keep them locked up in a drawer. That's a great idea. It makes everything quick, easy, smooth. So customer doesn't end up paying more money. We don't end up charging more money, or Comcast or whoever it is. But anyway, passwords, keep them changing. Anyway, that's it for this week. And I'm Isaac with Reboot, giving you the Reboot Tech Tip.
Thanks for tuning in today. We're going to show you some of the dogs and cats that are available for adoption here at Walton County Animal Control. School's back in session now. Things have settled down. The kids are back at the school. Come home, you got the routine set. Now maybe it's time to add a new pet to the house. Everyone's settled in and can bring it in. Don't forget, we have lots and lots of cats here. It's still that time of the year where we're getting in cat after cat after cat. We get some really great kittens in, some great adult cats. The adoption fee is only $40. Included in that $40 is a rabies vaccine, the first kitten vaccine, and then sometimes we have some of the combo testing available and can do that as well with the adoption. All that's included in the $40. Most of that would be well over $100 at any vet that you picked up a cat from. And so you can come down to Walton County Animal Control. We're open from 2 to 4:30 every afternoon, Monday through Friday. Certain Saturdays we're open from 10 to 1:30. You can check our website, waltonpets.net, to see what's available there and to see what Saturdays we're open. But we're a great place to come and adopt a cat. Don't forget, we're flooded with them, and we really need to find homes with them all. So if you're looking to add something to your house, don't forget about your local animal shelter.
Here we have a little Chihuahua mix, a Dachshund mix, probably Dachshund Chihuahua. It is a male. He's already neutered. He's about 4 years old.
All right, this is Trip. He's about 11-month-old, black and white hound, male, and well, he's got a bum paw there, but he's definitely friendly, very sweet, and he's looking for a good home.
This is Jeb. He's probably about 10 months old, not neutered, very sweet. He's a lab mix. Seems to get along with everybody. Needs a home fast.
She's about 11 months old. and she'll be ready for adoption Saturday. She's had all of her shots and been dewormed and has had Adam's flea and tick spray. And she will make a very good family pet.
Here we have a little female Chihuahua mix. She's not spayed. She's about 3 or 4 years old. Really sweet, happy little girl. Got lots of energy.
All right, this is about 2-year-old lab pit mix. He's a male. He's not new. I mean, he's not fixed yet, but very playful and very energetic, and he's definitely looking for a good home.
Hi, welcome to Monroe Walton Center for the Arts. This is your community arts center. We've got 50 or 60 classes every single month. Way too much for me to go into a lot of detail right now, but if you come in and visit, we have a class list for you. We also have Fiber Month going on this month. If you've driven past the center, you've seen all the fiber even on the outside of the center. On the inside of the center, there's even more. And we even have this bookmark that you can pick up with all of our fiber events, lots of free events, classes, demonstrations, all centering around fiber crafts and artwork. You'll love it. It's really a lot of fun. Behind me here are some of the classes that we're offering this month. Everything from dyeing with turmeric, weaving, basket making, soap felting, Peruvian looping, which is a really interesting technique for making jewelry. Felting with wool, knitting, of course, more knitting down here, a rug that you can make, paper weaving, which is really a fascinating way to recycle and use your paper for free. And Nuno felting, which makes beautiful scarves and shawls and things of that nature. It's just a wonderful way that we're celebrating fiber arts here at the Art Center this month. So come see us, pick up your class list, pick up your bookmark, view our fiber show. We've got regionally and even nationally known fiber artists in our fiber show. And it's here through September 27th only, so come on in real soon and see that. Don't forget, second Saturday of every month, we have our open mic night. If you're a storyteller, musician, stand-up comedian, contact us and we'll see about getting you on our schedule for second Saturday. The first Saturday of every month, we have painting and pizza with Miss Donna. That's, of course, for kids. Wish it was for adults, but it's not. And just things going on all the time. So come see us. Visit us on the web at monroewaltonarts.org, and you can see our classes and all of our events that we're offering. Hope to see you soon. Bye.
Hi, it's Jody Johnson here with the Recreation Report. Today I have one of our coordinators here in the Central Walton, the Monroe area, Kenny Freeman, is going to be with me. And we want to talk a little bit about our fall sports program, which has traditionally been our largest program we have throughout a year, basically of the 3 different seasons that we have, which is the spring, winter, and the fall. We have actually included a summer now, but fall is our biggest because we have all of our sports programs going on at one time, which would be the football, the fall baseball and softball, and soccer, all going on at the same time. So Kenny, tell us, I know your primary focus has been, I know you operate all of them, but I know you kind of tend to hang around the football a little bit.
Right.
So what's going on with the football program? That's traditionally called the Packers football, but we have several different teams other than just the Packers.
We do. This year we added 2 new teams that we usually don't carry. This year we got the Panthers and the Cowboys that come that playing this year at Central. So usually we usually have just the Packers and the Rams and and the Redskin. But this year we added a couple new teams this year in Central.
That's great. So it's not just the gold helmets that are running around. Y'all got a few different color helmets
That's right.
in the Central Walton area.
That's correct.
Well, that's good. How are the teams faring this year? I know we have 4 different age groups from 5 all the way up to 12. Every 2 years are separated. So how are the teams doing?
The teams are doing good. I think this year is probably one of the best year that we have as far as the team being equal. Each team, we had a team that playing pretty good, and so that there's not one dominant team. So we just have spread it out pretty good.
For parents that might be a little weary, I know the C word of concussions is all the way throughout. It's in all sports now, not just football. It's spread from football, where it kind of started, and now it's in baseball. Everybody watched the Braves game last night when the shortstop got hit in the head, and they went out and did protocol, and then they had to pull him out. But that's people are a little weary of concussions when it comes to youth football. How do y'all see that going? Is there a way of preventing it? A way of recognizing it? What do y'all do?
There's definitely ways of recognizing, but we try to make sure we prevent and try to use all precaution and making sure that the coaches have full training on what to look for when a kid, back in the days used to be the bell wrong. You got his bell wrong, and now it's full blown concussion. So now, but I think with the program, where the coaches go online, and that's added to the training part aspect where they get a chance to identify what a concussion is. And
also, what about the equipment that you're able to hand out? I know we provide helmets and shoulder pads. We have some of the best helmets.
We do. I promise you, we have some good equipment. Each year we purchase new helmets and shoulder pads, and we keep a good eye on it. Everything that's 7 years old, we try to make sure we get rid of it. So right now we're looking at probably the oldest helmet we got probably is about 2-3 years old. So everything is almost new. Yeah.
And the newer helmets they came out with, very, very protective. They're lighter weight, so the kids aren't having the neck issues of holding that helmet up. The face masks are stronger.
That's correct.
Made out of, I don't know what it's made out of. It's not even the metal that it used to be, so it's not as heavy. So the equipment that we have, the shoulder pads and the helmets, the kids provide their own pants and 7-piece pad sets, but the helmets are great, shoulder pads are good, and the education that the coaches are getting with the heads up programs of keeping your head up, not ducking the head, and it's trickling from the youth level all the way up, where we're not teaching, hey, let's go do the head hunting. Lower your head and try to really hurt somebody. A lot of that's not going on. Usually if we have a big lick, it was an accident. 2 people weren't looking and they happened to run into each other.
Exactly.
There's a lot of times where we have the bigger injuries. So football and injuries is, it goes hand in hand. If a hand gets stuck between 2 helmets, that's probably the most common injuries that you do have.
That's it. Basically, that's it. Yeah.
Well, we have around 450 kids that are still playing youth football. We have a new program that we started in the west end of the county. It's where they registered. And we have about 75 kids that are playing flag football, which is it's not supposed to be any contact because they're not wearing any equipment. And of course, they wear flags around. It's a 7-on-7 play on a smaller field. So that's a new program that we've offered as well.
Right.
For those that want to play football but don't want to risk any of the contact injuries. So that's important as well. But how's the baseball and the soccer faring this fall?
The soccer numbers are looking good. We off to a good start with the soccer. The baseball, the numbers are about the same as it was last year. Everything is going pretty good as baseball as well. So.
Yeah, and as we say, we're in about the 3rd week of the season, and it'll all culminate with the county championship in football with the Community Bowl, and I believe this will be the 15th or 16th year we've had our Community Bowl, and we look forward to having that. And I know the weekday games will be played here at Felker Park, which is a great football venue for youth football, and then the championship will be played up in Loganville there. So we look forward to all the Walton County teams participating in this year's Community Bowl. But with that being said, once a season is just getting started, we're looking towards the other season, and that means basketball registration. We have one of the largest basketball youth programs in in the state of Georgia, with over 1,000 kids that come in and participate with us. And that registration starts this coming up Monday, September 10th through the 15th. Average cost is around $75 per participant. So please get in there. You can go to our website at waltoncountyga.gov and go to the recreation department, and on our homepage there's a place there that'll prompt you where you can register online. You don't even have to show up anymore to our office, so you can do it at convenience of home or work, pay with a credit card, and it's really simple. Now you still can come into our office. We look forward to seeing you guys, so come on in and you can register there. We'll have a computer set up where we can walk you through setting up your profile, and that that is it. Once your profile's set up, registration in the future is really simple. And about 75% to 80% the first time we tried it, that's how many people signed up online. It was amazing how many people wanted this type of registration and the convenience. So go to, I'll have a flyer up here at the end of our episode, and you can look at that flyer, and it has a little thing on here about online registration. So again, Kenny, you got anything else you want to add to this week's show?
No, just go Dogs.
Yeah, well, we do support Georgia around here, so we hope that this is filmed right before they'll play South Carolina. So we hope Georgia can have another memorable and great season. Yeah. And we're looking forward to the Falcons actually starting their games tonight. So go Falcons as well, you know. Yeah, we need to get to this to have a hometown Super Bowl is what we need to have. Maybe win a professional and a college championship. Who knows? The Braves may join them as well.
As well.
It's not looking good right now, but we do have a lead. So yeah, you know, this Metro Atlanta is very much a sports-oriented area, and it all starts with the youth. And as we always say, sportsmanship starts at home. So give us a hand with that with your child, and we always are looking for volunteers. So until next time, thank you very much.
I know that in the school, sometimes you encounter students who have very severe mental health issues, and they can't be educated in the schools. That's rare, I know, but for the sake of our guest here, what steps are taking place when you encounter a student that it's just not safe for either them or other students for them to be educated inside the school system?
And I'll start with that one just by saying, you know, if anybody knows anything about the banking business, you know that banks are heavily regulated, but if you come study the school system, you'll quickly realize that school districts are regulated even more. You take the situation that Rick just mentioned, you know, many times that same student might be also, let's say, a special education student. So when Chip as a parent expects to see this kid that's causing these problems gone immediately, they don't understand all the other constraints and FAPE and all those kind of things we have to go through, certainly to keep safety, but also to protect the educational rights of that child, even though that child might be causing a problem with another child. And if it gets to it, in this process that we go through, I'm not going to talk 30 minutes on that, but when it comes time to remove a child, other than just the typical alternative school type of settings, we do fund. We're in the Northeast Georgia RESA, that's a Regional Educational Service Agency, and we have a department that has shared services. For example, most of the other school districts in Northeast Georgia are so small they can't afford, let's say, a speech therapist, or they don't have enough kids for an occupational therapist, or other types of shared service. So we share that together to be able to afford those services. And one of the parts of that is a psycho-ed center called Rutland Academy in Athens that we share, and that's 13 school districts sharing that facility. And we have, for example, right now in Walton County, I think about 14 children that go to school there. So we can provide them their free and appropriate education that's prescribed by law, but at the same time protect themselves, and if there's been issues in the past with other students, we make that separation.
Thank you. Dr. McGee, you want to add anything to that?
Well, Dr. Franklin did a great job. We usually have 2 or 3 students. You can see it's relative to size of the system that are at Rutland. And in order to place a student at Rutland, it's a long process. They have to qualify in a lot of different ways. And typically we've done our due diligence with wraparound services and everything that's available in the community and in the school before that's allowed to happen. So there's a lot of due process, a lot of things we have to follow in order to get a student placed at Rutland Academy.
All right, thank you. I do realize that we could have a forum on every one of these questions. But for the sake of time, I wanted to try to incorporate as much information as I could in one forum so that we could get the word out somewhat anyway. This next question I want to open up to law enforcement, fire department, EMS, as well as the schools. Once a threat has been identified, what steps are taken to keep students safe? We just talked about that some, but I'll open it up to whoever wants to speak on that.
Well, I think there are a lot of steps and a lot of steps that go into this, both on the law enforcement side and on the school system side, when you have an identified threat. And I'll use this as an example of something that I know we deal with in the sheriff's office, and I'm sure every other law enforcement agency, particularly with social media today. We see, everybody is on Facebook, Twitter, all of these things, and particularly with young people sometimes when they're angry, going through a breakup, family issues at home, whatever it might be. We've had a number of instances over the years where they make a threatening comment or innuendo or whatever it might be. Well, you have to take every one of those seriously. So while we're looking into it on the law enforcement side to see is this a criminal action and what is the actual threat to the school system has to react as well to determine what they're going to do about tomorrow at school. What steps are they going to take? So there's a lot of communication during that process that goes on between the officers, the SROs, or whether it's our detectives or whoever it might be that are investigating that threat, communicating with the school administrators, the principals, the superintendent, all those things to ensure that these students are safe.
Thank you. We got a pretty good overview of this next question in the video that we watched, but in general, what responses are planned in the event of a mass casualty event in a school, whether it's a school shooting, whether it's a tornado that comes through and hits a school, whether it's any type of disaster that involves mass casualties? I'd like to hear from our fire department.
So the answer to that question for the fire department is, first let me say this. What filters down to the fire service most of the time, we're the lucky guys, because if we're called, either PD goes with us or EMS goes with us. So we're never alone. It's always we're working with PD and SROs, or we're working with EMS. So most of the time when it filters down to the fire department, it's probably going to be more weather related. And the schools have a great system, great plans in place for that. We kind of meet with them and we correlate what they're going to be doing, what we're going to be doing. They're mandated by the state. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know how y'all handle that, but they're mandated by the state to do so many fire drills, so many tornado drills, so many drills that if we get involved in it, we just kind of mess their system up, where they're the ones doing it, they're performing it, it meets our standards, we're good to go. So we do have plans in place that correlate with the school's plans. As far as mass casualty goes, we call what we call shelter in place, and we have off locations to where, again, here's where the school comes into play, because they have to bus those kids. The fire department has no resources to move that big of a number. So we just have to communicate heavily with the school board and PD. If we have to move off a location for whatever reason, tornado, so be it. Most of the times we try to shelter in place. I know I had a conversation with Chip several times now, and these schools are built nowadays, they're sturdy. Nothing in the world is fireproof. There's fire resistance, but these buildings are built and they're sturdy for a reason. So a lot of times we'll just stay right there. We won't even have to do much. So that is it on the fire department standpoint. When it gets to the medical side of it, we refer to EMS because they're the professionals. We're kind of the Band-Aids and, water and calm down, everything's going to be okay. They're the ones that are putting the stitches and taking to the hospital and transporting and making those decisions. So once again, I say that the fire department has it easy here because we either go with PD and they're saying, don't go in there, he's going to kill you. And we don't go in there, or don't go in there because they're fighting. We don't go in there, and EMS says, hey, this one needs, O2, this one needs this, and that's what we do. So honestly, the fire department has it easy here.
Well, I'd like to hear from EMS, and after this we have Richie Sinclair from Piedmont, where the casualties would be transported to. So if y'all can speak to this issue.
Speaking for EMS, the biggest thing is that we train on a clear blue sky day, that we don't have any issues, and we do it several times a year. Being able to walk on a scene and knowing who everyone is on this panel makes a big difference. We do training, within our department, and we try to keep what we can as close to day-to-day operations so it doesn't have a big change and everyone's on the same page. The biggest thing's, being able to sit down and have meetings and train on clear blue, easy sky days, that we don't have a big, first time meeting people.
Before we go to Mr. Sinclair, John, would you talk to us about the Stop the Bleed training, what that's about?
Sure. Boy, it's a big one. I'll keep it as short as possible. A couple years ago, obviously, this is going to be an issue that's generated from an active shooter type incident. What we have done is we've gone along with the state protocols on Stop the Bleed. What that boils down to is if a certain amount of teachers take a class, the Stop the Bleed class, then they get a certain amount of these kits per school. Each one of these kits is not your regular first aid kit. They have specialized equipment in here to deal with an active shooter situation. The beautiful thing about this is the fact that it's free. This is all state funded. I can honestly say that throughout the hard work of everybody that's up here on this panel, Walton County is way ahead of the curve when it comes to getting not only the training, but getting the equipment in these schools. Even Social Circle, we've got y'all coming up on the books. We've got Loganville Christian Academy coming up on the books. All the county schools, George Walton County Academy has taken this. We just had a meeting today with the school board, and guess what? We're getting training to every school bus driver. And we're getting these kits on the school buses. So is it enough? Probably not, but you know what? It's a really good place to start, and we are getting the equipment there. And again, I think I'm lucky. I have a son that attends Loganville High School, and it's nice knowing, compared to other communities around the state, that we are so far ahead of the curve. And it's nice knowing that my son is going to be taken care of because we have all trained the teachers to be prepared for something like that.
This is a question I've wanted to ask. The Stop the Bleed kits. If, Lord forbid, there were a bus accident, would these kits be suitable to use in a situation like that?
Absolutely. To quote something that happened last March, we had and this actually happened. This was in Forsyth County or someplace up north, Georgia. We had a little girl who was, or we didn't, they did, had a little girl that was 8 years old. She was playing on top of the jungle gym at school. This was not an active shooter. This was not somebody that was coming in with a knife. This was a little girl that was playing on a jungle gym. She fell off. It was over 9 feet. When she landed, her ulnar bone came out the wrong way. When it did, it severed her main artery. The day before that this happened, the teachers at that school had just received the training for Stop the Bleed. The teacher ran inside, grabbed the kit, was able to put a tourniquet on that little girl. Not only did they save her life because she was bleeding out, she was going to die, but they were able to save her arm as well. So yes, to answer your questions, these kits can be used for more than just that. There's everyday occurrences that these kits could be used for. What I tell people when I do this class, I said, ask them how many of y'all have a crazy neighbor with a chainsaw? And then I ask them how many of y'all are the crazy neighbor with the chainsaw? So obviously it can be used for more than that, but thank goodness we have a state that has given us grant money to where we can get this equipment out there and at least get those teachers educated to where they are actually, and I think everybody on the panel will agree with this, they are the true first responders. Your employees at these schools, your teachers, your custodians, your cafeteria workers, they're the ones that are going to be the true first responders. They're the ones that are going to get started with using these kits, and having those kits inside the schools really is a huge help, because as we're coming in, a lot of this medical care is already going to be taken care of.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sinclair, you're going to be the one receiving patients from whatever the source. How are y'all set up to handle an influx of patients?
So we're kind of the catch-all facility after any type of casualties or so forth. I think just in the last 2 years there was a school bus accident, and we got a call. You know, we don't truly know the extent of the injuries or so forth. All we know are about 25, I think it was elementary school age kids were being transported to the hospital. We have 15 ER rooms, and we're going to have 25 people show up all at once. This doesn't also take into effect that we're operating a normal day. So our ER is already taxed, and all of a sudden we have 25, 30 people coming in all at once. This starts to tax our resources pretty quick. With that being said, we have tabletop exercises to discuss these situations. We also run through the actual drills. A lot of times it's hard to drill down exactly what's going to happen, because every exercise is going to be a little bit different. But with that being said, it can also be something in-house. We also have tabletops and exercises and so forth with active shooters, and a lot goes back to the behavioral health problems. Just in the past 2 years, I think from 2017 to 18, our behavioral health patients, we classify them as 1013 patients. That number grew 25% from 2017 to 18. And like Nathan said a minute ago, the age of that structure is slowly getting younger and younger and younger. It's just something we have to learn to deal with and take the correct actions to get the necessary treatment. But that's about it. You know, for example, the bus accident, and this might kind of lead into the next question as well. Once the kids started arriving, we worked with the school. I think Nathan had already notified the parents of the children that were involved, and they were more familiar with the parents and so forth, so we were able to get the parents with the kids in a stable manner. During any kind of casualties or influx, the first thing we really want to do is limit the access into our ED. We don't want anybody and everybody coming into the ED. So Nathan and his group was a great pleasure to work with on that.
Okay. Anyone else want to address
Just a quick comment, and I was actually going to mention that example when we had that bus wreck. We average, and you would never guess this, in Walton County, 20 bus wrecks a year, and that's up from an average of about 12 the last 5 or 6 years, we've seen about that 20 average, and that sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, with 160 or so buses, and at any time, 105 to 110 of those buses rolling around. We cover a lot of miles, obviously. We're a pretty large county. Evidently, yellow is the wrong color to paint them, Rick, but we call that primarily the texting factor. Typically, about 19 of those 20 wrecks is someone obviously rear-ending us, etc. But in that occasion, we transported several kids, and it was a fast thing. And not to steal the thunder on the next question, but thanks to modern technology, we can, whether it's an email pulse, text, we have the luxury of having top-notch PR in terms of social media, just on Facebook, and maybe you have this on your sites, but we can hit a button and touch 15, 20,000 people in a couple of seconds, which is pretty cool. The call-out system, we have our level 1 call-outs. We can notify the primary number on something like that. We can hit a different button and notify every number in there, whether it's their aunt, their uncle, their grandmother, their special pickup, their house phone, their cell phone. We have that option too. Certainly we withhold that for some of the bigger things, but one thing that didn't get mentioned in the last question in terms of mass casualty, going back to the school safety plans, and not to get into any kind of elaboration, but certainly we do the same tabletop drills. We talk with the response agencies that are going to come. We want their direct input in those things. We have obviously reunification sites for any kind of mass casualty issues or any kind of issues if we need to, not just one but multiple. Every one of our principals, and hopefully assistant principals, and really maybe even their staffs, can tell you where some of those reunification sites are, how they're set up, where they're going to put first grade, where they're going to put third grade, where's the media going to go, where's the all those things are actually drawn out. Where's the gas cutoff? They sound simple, but they're all in print, visible in our safety plans. And there's some things that we purposely don't put in there, and there's reasons why we don't publicize those things, obviously. One thing that hadn't been mentioned, and if the average person wants to do harm in our schools and they make it through the first few layers, front office personnel can do something as simple as hit one of our bank buttons, like we call them bank buttons. I'm sure there's a fancier name for it. And I can promise you, more so than other counties, in Walton County, when you hit that button, the whole world's coming. And I've heard the good sheriff say this before, but we are blessed with resources and agencies in Walton County. You may not have thought about that, but the fact that we've got a state patrol post in Walton County, we've got a DNR state office in Walton County, and all our other great agencies that we're surrounded by, literally 100 people would be there in just a few minutes. And that's a big deal for us in our safety and how we would treat and go forth with any kind of mass casualty event. So we're blessed in that regard. I did want to mention that.
Well, thank you. I'm thankful that we're much more likely to suffer damage from a severe thunderstorm or a tornado than we are an active shooter. But in any kind of mass casualty event like that, how are parents going to be directed to pick their kids up if you have to bust them off site for whatever reason?
Yeah, right. It's all technology related. Our call-out system, whether it's an actual call-out, whether it's an email blast, social media, to be honest with you, in an event like that, it would probably be all the above. We plan, as you guys do, for the average of about 4 cars per student, because if it's really something big, the whole world's coming and all the relatives. So we want to plan for everything and hope that none of it happens, for example.
Amen. Do any of you have comments that you would like to make or questions that you would like to address to someone else on the panel? That might be a dangerous thing, but any further comments from anyone? Okay, we've got.
I'd just like to touch on, back up to a question we had earlier dealing with mental health, and I know we addressed that, but it is an issue not only in the schools, but in our communities, in the county, wherever we may be. And it's not contained just to Walton County, it's nationwide. We have, I think, a nationwide mental health crisis, really. And there's not a law enforcement officer working in Walton County, where they work for one of the police departments, the sheriff's office on patrol, or particularly in the jail, that hasn't been a de facto mental health counselor at some point on some call. And I think whatever you see in your communities, you're going to see in your school, because they're a reflection of that. And I know that they have to deal with sometimes with severe mental health issues, but but it is something we're concerned with mental health, and I think all of the agencies that are represented here would agree with me. There's been a great emphasis on training for police officers in the state, and in fact some state mandated training on crisis intervention, de-escalation, all these kind of things. But unfortunately, in our communities, the people that do suffer from mental health crisis, a lot of times the first people they come in contact with to deal with that are going to be law enforcement. The other thing I'd like to touch on is just that for the community to know that safety in our schools, responding to incidents of violence at our schools is not something new for any of us that are up here in law enforcement. We've been training for this now, I know, for 18 years, a minimum of 18 years, and it started following the incident in Columbine. That's when we did our first active shooter training in Walton County. And as time has gone on, and unfortunately there have been a great number of incidents since then, the tactics have been improved. We've learned from mistakes. We've learned now to incorporate other emergency responders into our drills with fire and EMS and air assets and all of those things. So I just want the community to know that we do have their students' best interest and safety is our highest priority, and nothing that we do as law enforcement officers has a higher priority or will ever be more important than saving the life of a child.
Amen. And on the mental health side of things, I am very thankful for Advantage and our other mental health providers here. The sad reality of the fact is we can only serve so many people. We're limited by time and resources. But I do thank you for what you and Advantage offer to Walton County, and appreciate you being here this evening. You want to say something, Scott?
Just wanted to add, we've spent a lot of time talking about all of this in the aspect of schools, and unfortunately it goes well beyond that. There are about, any given year, 22 to 24 of these mass attack events throughout the country. That number has increased, but what we'd like to also bring out to you is more than 50% of these attacks, just over 50% of these attacks, actually occur in the workplace. We're very fortunate that it gets unfortunately it gets all the bad press, but fortunately only about 24% or so of these events actually occur in a school. We have taken steps. We've partnered with Walton County Fire Rescue and the other surrounding agencies. This has become a national problem, and we're trying to address it by talking to the public. We've got a program, it's called Citizens Response to Active Shooter Events. We've been doing for some time now. We would love to come out to your business, your church, the sheriff's office, and the other agencies have been heavily involved in going out and helping you assess your security plans, bringing up some things that you may not be aware of, helping you write your own policy and procedures, giving these classes to your employees, and at the same time Walton County Fire Rescue is right there with us doing Stop the Bleed. Whether it be your church, your business, your civic organization, please give us an opportunity to come out and talk more to you about this event. I think we're doing one for the community September the 8th in Social Circle, partnered with Social Circle Police Department. So if you have any interest, please come out and join us.
Thank you, Scott.
Are we about to close this up, Rick?
Well, I'm going to open it up for some question and answers, but if you have anything to say.
Well, I just want to say, we spend a lot of time talking about these school shootings because it's tragic, and it happens across the nation. Fortunately, it hasn't happened in Walton County. This video was super nice, but all that you saw happens way after someone went into a school and started shooting. The people that prevent school shootings or lower the casualty rate in a school shooting is these gentlemen down here, these men and women that are in the schools, and they know the importance of that. So that's always going to be. Our county is changing quickly. When I was a school resource officer, Gina made me go deliver turkeys on Thanksgiving. That was our biggest event in school. But it is totally different now. And we spend an enormous amount of resources on protecting children, like Dick has said. That's always going to be. Since I've been in law enforcement in Walton County, 30-something years, I don't know of not one person shot in a school. Am I wrong on that, Dick? Unfortunately, these two men are on my favorites list in my phone. I've had to call Dr. Franklin 3 times, I know of a child being killed in car accidents. 2 committed suicide. You've been lucky. I haven't had to call you. Gary Hobbs before Dr. Franklin. Numerous times, too many times I've had to call him about a student being killed in a car crash. And that's far more likely to happen than what we're talking about on this video. But we have to train for this, because if it ever does happen, we have to know how to react. And that's important. We're going to do that. But we're still going to spend a lot of time teaching these young people how to drive, stay off the phone, and I know, I keep looking around. I think I'm one of the oldest ones up here. You may be close to me.
Close to you.
Yeah. But we didn't have that internet. And I'm telling you, that internet is the devil. And I know I get told all the time, oh, you just old-fashioned, you got to keep up with the times. But that internet, Facebook, Snapchat, all this other stuff creates more problems for us up here than anything that's been developed in the last 30 years. But I don't want to give all this gloom and doom, because in Walton County you have a good school system, you have great public safety, you have access to your schools and public safety. And if you don't believe that, go next door to any county around us and you'll see a drastic difference. I promise. And I'm going to shut up, Rick.
Well, thank you, Joe. And I do absolutely agree with you. The fact that we had this many people show up, take extra time out of their day to address this is a huge compliment to our schools and all of our public safety personnel. I do want to open it up for a few minutes. If there are any questions in the audience, anybody want to address a particular incident or a particular person, we have a mic up front. I'd ask that you come and address them through the mic. Yes, ma'am. Well, you can pull the mic out.
Hey guys, I just want to thank y'all so much. I actually moved all the way from inside the perimeter out here, so I love this county, and I love, you know, even though I don't know y'all, I love all of y'all. I love what y'all are doing. Y'all are super important, so I'm just super grateful for y'all. I get nervous when I speak in front of people. What can I do? You know, what can I do as a mother of 2 kids in Youth Elementary, even because I'm, you know, in there as a volunteer, and of course, what we've been talking about, what I always see on the news, I'm alarmed. My whole system is alarmed, and I'm noticing how easy it is for me to walk in there. You know, I've done my due diligence of all my criminal background checks and everything like that. I might look a certain way, but at the end of the day, if I had a bad day or whatever, it's very easy for me to get in that school. So I just appreciate the video. All of this helps so much, but what can I do? You know, can I, for Youth Elementary, can I encourage these trainings, or what can I do to support y'all better? I'm ready to like rally the community in however which way y'all need help. I just want to know how to help.
Well, thank you for your question. And I'll start Rick, if that's okay. Youth Elementary is one of our schools, of course. It's one of our schools that's going to be getting the update in terms of the front vestibule because of that ease to go in. You said you moved from the inside of the perimeter, so let me back up for a second and say, and I think Sheriff Chapman, I've heard him mention this in different venues before, most of us live in Walton County for lots of different reasons, but there's some common reasons we love and live in Walton County. One of those reasons is there's a lot of things about Walton County that feels like a few years ago, for lack of better words. Maybe growing up, et cetera. It's kind of roll the clocks back, and most of that is, those are good things. One of those things is the ability, for example, in elementary school, for our parents that want to walk their children in the morning. So we can have conversations about metal detectors and buzzer systems and all those things, and we're doing, guess what? Just the buzzer systems, boom, $1 million price tag just in the last few months. That's fine, it's worth it, and lots of other things. It's already been said, there's no perfect setup. We spent $10 million at every school tonight, and tomorrow it's still not foolproof. I've heard the sheriff say it this way: we all want increased safety, increased focus, increased vigilance, and we're going to do everything we can to get that. But most of us don't want our schools to look like prison. Okay? Matter of fact, we tested this out. Rewind the clock a couple of years ago, and we tried simple things like, and certainly we secure our doors, and we want just that one door unlocked, but of course you'll get that phone call that says, well, I want even that door locked. Okay, let's try that. It took about 5 minutes for about 15 parents to call the board office and every board member we have and every newspaper we have and complain about not having the access to that building. So keep in mind that we're trying to balance that. It is a fine balance, and certainly we're going to err on the side of safety. That front entrance is one piece, but we certainly have to balance that, not just with funds, but with the access and the feeling of approachability and things like that in our school system. And yes, you probably had to go through the hassle of background checks and all those things, and a lot of folks don't like that.
I love it. Today was my first day going back this year. I loved the email verification. I love all of it. In fact, I wanted them to check because I'm like, bring it on. Let's do
So the other 50 people that didn't like it, who called me, and one of the things we've changed, you'll never hear about things like this, but the simple fact that we've gone from a local background check to a national background check, you know what? It stops the parent that moved in from Texas that wanted to go on a supervising field trip with a class who was wanted for murder. Wow. Yeah, that happened. And 50 stories like that when we broaden the scope and search in Walton County. We have folks that want to volunteer with good intentions. Literally, the chief HR officer and I talk about it every day when they get one. We have folks that want to volunteer with 26 pages of background every single day in Walton County. And those are the adults. Okay, those are the adults. Great question, though.
Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here this evening. I hope this has been beneficial, and hopefully we will get this on YouTube sometime in the near future.
Where do you come alive? A stadium, lecture hall, a music hall, church potluck? This year, you have a new spot, walkgeorgia.org, a free website that provides you with all the resources needed to get your heart rate up and body out in your community. Sign up and receive individual or group fitness tracking, fitness demos by certified trainers, recipes, and a guide to resources in your Georgia County, all in one easy-to-use site. When you move more, you live more. walkgeorgia.org.